Hello, this is Juniper of Solavie Studio, and welcome to my backyard. So the lighting right now is creating a natural filter. I thought it'd be kind of fun. But I wanted to sit over here because of those little mushrooms. They're super cute. I showed them, I don't know, a couple weeks ago, and they were very translucent, and now they're turning brown. But this year's been fascinating because there's just all these new mushrooms popping up that I haven't seen here before. And then last week, I was at the dental office, and they had National Geographic. And the mycelium underground that the mushrooms come out of has been said to communicate and to transfer nutrients between the trees. Like you'll have one tree that's I think they called it the hub tree, and it's generally an evergreen. And in the wintertime, it will feed the deciduous trees the extra sugars that they create. And so it's this whole symbiotic community that's happening through the mycelium. So for me, it's pretty exciting to have all these new mushrooms coming up in my yard. There's this, really, it has a slug. Sorry if I'm going to make you dizzy, but see that cute little mushroom? I haven't seen that one before. The top of it looks like a very dark chocolate brown velvet. It looks very, very soft, and there was a slug trail on it because those slugs are everywhere. But anyways, I love autumn. So this morning I saw an advertisement for webinars or something, and there was this woman speaking, and I wish I had caught her name. I don't know if they even said it, but she was talking about the greenhouse effect, global warming, blah, blah, blah. Those names were the thing. And what she said really struck me. She said, "I'll be happy when," which I started thinking about, and it brought me back to when I was a senior in high school, our current world events class. So basically history, like current history, basically. Our teacher asked us to write a letter to ourselves. And the question he asked was, where do you see yourself in 10 years? And then he collected the envelope. We put our names on the envelopes. He collected them. They were stored at the school and passed out at our 10-year high school reunion. And I basically did everything on my list by the 10-year mark, which was interesting. But so one of the things was, I'll be happy when. I'll be happy when I finish my college degree. Okay, well, the 10-year reunion, check, right? I'll be happy when I find my life partner. Well, check, right? I'll be happy when I start a family. Well, I had a 2.5-year-old, and I was in my second trimester of pregnancy at the high school reunion, so check. I'll be happy when, and then so we got married, and then about to have our second child, and we lived in a pretty small house, and there was only 2 bedrooms, and both bedrooms were, to fit 2 twin beds in either one of those bedrooms and plus dressers, because the closets were tiny, was going to be an incredibly tight squeeze. So it became apparent that, well, I guess we could have done bunk beds, but having a 2-year-old climb up into a high bunk bed, I'll be happy when became this, like, just like she was saying, I want more. I want this next thing. So I wanted a bigger house. So we ended up buying a house. And it came with 2 bedrooms, but one bedroom was really big. One bedroom was good size. And then there was a partially finished basement that we could build more bedrooms in, right? So there was room to expand. And there were 3 lots that came with the house, and one had a separate tax number. So we could potentially build another house on that lot and sell it to make some cash. So, I mean, investment-wise, it was a great investment. But along with the house became a roof that needed to be replaced within the first few years. The basement actually flooded, and that was due to the drainage not being properly done when they built the house. And so we couldn't make bedrooms in the basement because there was a water issue that had to be dealt with first. Because if you put any, flooring in or sheetrock in, it would just create mold and be a waste of money. So then it became, I'll be happy when I have more money, because of all the repairs that needed to happen. I'll be happy when we can actually take a vacation. I'll be happy when... So there's all these external factors that you can place your happiness on. But at the end of the day, what is it that should make you happy? Is it all these external things on the outside of you? Or is it just the quiet little moments that you have every day? I'm not saying don't strive for things and don't have goals to work toward, because that keeps you mentally stimulated and active, and, having a purpose in life is an incredible gift. But to the cautionary bit was struck by, I'll be happy when, is the defining of yourself or your personal happiness due to external factors. And that's what I found in my letter to myself that I wrote when I was 18, and I read when I was 28, right? So it was all the external things. It wasn't sorry, I just got a text message. It's one of the things, sometimes I wish I had one button to pause all notifications. But to define your happiness, to have your happiness dependent upon now having this kind of car and having this style of house or having this kind of flooring, or, because carpet is not, so you want blah, blah, blah. That doesn't really create happiness at the end of the day. Happiness is on the inside. Happiness is when your emotional junk is clean and clear. Happiness is when you feel at ease in your skin. I'm going to venture to say that most Americans have food to eat, running water, a place to sleep, have access to health care, so all of these things that, I haven't traveled extensively for sure, but when I was in Costa Rica, people lived in very, very simple houses. Most of the places that we stayed in were on the less expensive side. So, because that was kind of the trade-off. We can stay in a nicer place and not have as much time there, or we can stay at a less expensive place and have more time there. So we chose for the more time. So the basics was, some sort of simple roof and a concrete box with a bed. And even we did spend a couple days in a resort, but it was just the concrete floors, because when I came back from Costa Rica and I opened up my backpack, all my clothes felt damp. I mean, because of the humidity. So carpet in a place that has such high humidity is just going to be moldy, which ultimately is a health hazard. The only time I remember, even when I was there, that my clothes felt really, really dry was when they directly came out of the dryer. But then the humidity was so high that it was really interesting. But the people there, they're happy. You know, families would just spend their weekends with these sticks. You know, there's a whole bunch, like, well, definitely not this big, but about this thick around, just a stick about this big, with fishing line and a hook on the end. And it was so funny, because there was one time when there was other little kids who were a little bit older than my daughter, and she was 1.5 at the time. And so the little kids were playing on the beach, and she was just learning to speak English, and they were speaking Spanish. But they didn't have a communication barrier for some reason. I don't quite know how that happened, because she couldn't really talk to anyone anyways. So she didn't recognize, you know, she was just like, hey, you're my friend, let's hang out. But she would go running toward the water, and they would like run after her and like grab her hand and have her play with the sand with them. But it was just so simple, you know, and what we ate down there was what a lot of the locals ate. It was just basically rice and beans with a couple vegetables thrown into the mix, and their spice blend was simple but delicious. And then just really simple food, and then some fresh fruit and fresh vegetables, and then some meat or fish or something on the side. But it was just really, really simple, clean diet. And the houses were just so simple. And there, because of the weather, we went there in the winter, like where I'm at, it's really cold at that point in our winter. But there, I mean, everyone was just in t-shirts and jeans or shorts or whatever. It wasn't really hot enough for air conditioning or cold enough to have a lot of heating. So, but everything was just so simple. But those people, they were just always laughing, having big smiles on their faces. It was just, they knew how to enjoy the little things. And that brought them internal pleasure. They weren't chasing. And I guess the areas that we stayed weren't like giant cities. You know, we didn't spend very much time in the big city. But it seems like they didn't have the external materialistic expectations to bring them happiness. They were just happy to be together, happy to laugh, happy to chill on the beach with the kids. You know, just the simple things. So the I'll be happy when trap of placing your happiness on external mileposts is something to be aware of. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, happiness is all what you think and how you feel, and how you regulate your thoughts and your feelings. So blessings on your day.